So we are holding the beginning of a new mimer. This new mimer is a hemshech to the previous mimer. In other words, the Rebbe is going to continue talking about what we spoke about in the previous mimer, about the two lines. There is the line of the right and the line of the left, like we spoke about by Kriyas Yamsuf. There was Miyiminam, Mismoilom, the right and the left, Torah and Tefillah, and Tefillah and Mezuzah, and so on, that throughout Seder Ishtalshlus and in Yidden and Torah Mitzvahs and the world, and even in Klippa, there's both lines. And that's what we went through. We also spoke about how it's going to be when Mashiach comes. He's gonna like continue in that vein in this mimer. So it's a mimer from Seit Shmaya Shabbos Parshas Yisro Mevorach Machodesh Adar Rishon Tavshin Lamed Gimel. בחודש השלישי לצאת מישראל מארץ מצרים, the third month from the Yidden going out of the land of Mitzrayim, Bayom Hazeh, in this day, very mysterious, on this day, what's this day? Bo Midbar Sinai, they came into the wilderness, into the desert of Sinai. Vayisum Refidim, and afterwards it says, and they traveled from Refidim, Vayavoyu Midbar Sinai, and they came to Midbar Sinai V'goymer. It's known the question of the Alter Rebbe in Torah in the Ramorim of our Rabbeim following this, the fact that it just says Bayom Hazeh, the loy nichtav, it doesn't say the loy perish be'ezi yom, it doesn't say what day it was. It doesn't indicate which day was it. Could have said in the first day of the month. Rak Chazal b'sugi of Matan Torah, rather the Chazal in the sugi of Matan Torah, like it's known, the sugi of Matan Torah is in Gemara Shabbos over there. It talks about all the details that took place on Matan Torah. Darshu, they derived Shubaresh Chodesh, that it was the first day of the month. How did they derive this? Ksiv hacha b'yom hazeh. It says over here in our parsha where it talks about when they arrived in Midbar Sinai, it says in this day, and it also says in Parshas Boy where Hashem spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu in Rish Chodesh Nisan, it says in this month. So we do a hazeh, we compare. And we have a Gzeir Shabbat between the twice where it says the word Hazeh, this, Ma'alahal on Reish Chodesh, Hafkan Reish Chodesh. Just like over there, by HaChodesh Hazeh Reish Chodashim, it's talking about Reish Chodesh. So also over here, by Yom Hazeh is also talking about Reish Chodesh. So the question Alter Rebbe asks is, why be mysterious? Why not say openly in the first day of the month, instead of needing to derive it from a limit? Another question that Rebbe asked on line 10, Gam Tzarech Lov, and also we need to understand. Ma watam b'seder HaKosov, what's the reason for the order of the pasuk? Shemagnim tchila b'chodesh השלישי. The first he prefaces in the third month. V'achar kach b'yom hazeh, and only afterwards does he say, in this day, the koy al Rish Chodesh kanisker la'el, that goes, refers to Rish Chodesh like we said before, as he's going to say soon. The order, the Torah usually is the first of the third month. That's normally the way the Torah speaks. First it speaks about the day of the month, then it speaks about the actual month. So he says, the line 13, seemingly he should have first said the day of the month and afterwards the month. For example, it says in a different part of the Torah, it says in the first of the second month. So first there's the day of the month, and then there is the month. The 15th day of the month. In a similar way, that we find another place in the Torah when he says a date of something occurring. In a similar vein, should have said in the first of the third month. In our case, we know that in general the Torah tries to minimize the amount of words it uses, and because of that the Torah will use one word and then all different types of ways to derive from that word the halachas. Now, if it would have said be'echad lachodesh hashlishi, that would have saved. That would have been one word instead of saying b'chodesh hashlishi b'yom hazeh. That's two words. So why indicate it in such a type of unusual manner? And you're also seemingly expending more words, which the Torah usually does not do for no purpose. Line 18, after the brackets. Also, we need to understand what it says in the continuation of the pasuk. Bo Midbar Sinai. It says they came to Midbar Sinai, and then it goes on, Vayisu Merefidim, and then they traveled from Refidim. Seemingly, that's flipped around. They traveled from Refidim before they came to Sinai. The Rebbe also says, parenthetically, in addition to the difficulty that Rashi has over here, why does he even have to repeat it again and tell you that it came from Refidim? It already says that they were settled and encamped in Refidim, and so therefore, when it says that they arrived in Midbar Sinai, so obviously they left Refidim. So Rashi derives what he derives from that idea about why does it even have to tell you that. But the question that the Rebbe poses is not why is he telling us that, but why is he flipping around? Traveling from Refidim was before they came in, and they arrived in the wilderness of Sinai. Like it says after this, that they traveled from Refidim and they came to Midbar Sinai. So immediately afterwards it says openly, they traveled from Refidim. Their next stop was Midbar Sinai. So so why in our pasuk does it say Bo Midbar Sinai? They arrived in Midbar Sinai, Vayisu Merefidim, and they traveled from Refidim. So now the Rebbe is going to say very basic understanding of how these questions fit in over here. The idea behind this is all the specific matters that it says in the psukim. These psukim, they are a preparation and an introduction, and they are an explanation for the main topic that's going to be discussed now in the parsha. What is the main topic that's going to be discussed now in the parsha? Shua Sipur, the Matan Torah. It's the story of Matan Torah. And being that it's an introduction to the story of Matan Torah, that is why all of these unusual ways of writing the date and the arrival, etc., had to be written in just that particular order. Therefore, top of page Vav, therefore, initially it says in the third month, before it says the date, like we say in everywhere else. Because the main emphasis is that Matan Torah is connected with number 3. The Gam also, when it wants to indicate the date, it chooses this unusual expression by Yom Hazeh, v'loy be'echad b'chodesh, and not on the first of the month like it would normally say. The only thing is, how do we know what day it is? So we derive it from this. We learn out the Gzeir Shavah that there says Hazeh by Chodesh Hazeh, it says Hazeh by Yom Hazeh, so we know it's Rish Chodesh. But the specific choosing of this type of order and language is Shekol Zeh Shayach La'achana L'Matan Torah. All of this is connected with the preparation for Matan Torah. And this also answers our last question, or this is the insight to our last question. That's why initially it says they came to Midbar Sinai, and only afterwards he adds that they traveled from Refidim. Only in that type of order, Midbar Sinai, then Refidim is the preparation of Matan Torah, Kilkamon, as he will say as it goes on. Ois Beis, line 12. Having that to be able to understand this, we have to first initially explain the general novelty of Matan Torah, and to such a degree, there was thunder and lightning, meaning indicating how powerful of an event it was, and seemingly it wasn't such a big deal. The idea of Torah existed even prior to the giving of the Torah. Chazal say, Avraham Avinu is called Torah Kulat Nitna. Avraham Avinu fulfilled the entire Torah prior to its being given. V'chein Yitzchak v'Yaakov Kimos Kol Torah, so to Yitzchak and Yaakov fulfilled the entire Torah. All days, and according to many opinions, Gam Shvatim Kimu Kol Torah. Also the Shvatim fulfilled the entire Torah. Since they fulfilled the Torah, the entire Torah, how would they fulfill it without knowing it? Therefore we must say that all of these, the Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and as well as the Shvatim, study Torah, so they should know what they are supposed to do. Because if they wouldn't have studied Torah, how are they supposed to know to observe the Torah? Like it's brought down in Gemara, Avraham Avinu was an elder, meaning a teacher, a sage, and he was sitting in yeshiva. And then the Rebbe adds, since Avraham Avinu was a man of kindness, surely he studied with others also what he knew. He shared it with others. Why? He wouldn't keep it to himself. So therefore, doesn't mean he just sat alone in yeshiva and learned. Obviously, he had yeshiva with students. V'chein Yitzchak v'Yaakov, so to Yitzchak and Yaakov were sitting and studying. And this was not just when they were in Eretz Canaan, but also when they came into Mitzrayim. Like it says concerning the descent, when Yaakov descended to Mitzrayim, Ves Yehuda shal lefanav al Yosef lahoros lefanav Goshna, and Yehuda he sent before him to Yosef to lahoros. What does it mean lahoros? Lahoros from the word hayra, teaching, directives from the word Torah. He sent Yehuda to teach before him in Goshen. Rashi explains L'Sakla, based Talmud, to prepare a yeshiva. That's why it's L'Hoiris, because from a yeshiva, lessons and directives come out from it. The Torah is taught. And in addition to that, these weren't just any type of yeshivas. You can imagine if you had the Rosh Yeshiva was Avraham, if you had the elder that ran the yeshiva was Avraham, if he was the one that was there, it's understood that the quality of study, the Ramah, the level of study was above and beyond. When he was already 3 years old, he already recognized his creator. So we can understand what type of great yeshiva that was. V'yiseidim is even more so. It's brought down Medrash Tanchuma. That his two kidneys became like two buckets of water, and these buckets from it would flow out Torah. In other words, that Avram's Torah was like flowing, like from his intestines, from his innards. Ad laha'ilida, the Avram, until he even had the great quality of his intellect, was known and hinted in his name, Avram. What is the idea of Avram? Literally, exalted father. Like the Alter Rebbe explains, the level of the concealed the level of intellect concealed from all thought. That's what it means Avram. We know Av goes on Chochmah. Av'ein, that's Chochmah Bina. Ram means exalted. So that means it's such a high level of wisdom That's completely above and beyond. So Avram Avinu was the Zakin over there. He was the elder. He was the sage of that yeshiva. A person whose level was Seichel Anelam Kol Rayin, the most exalted type of level of intellect. Now, this intellect was not just something that was concealed to him. Afterwards, the letter Hey was added to Avram. When the letter Hey was added to Avram, it didn't take away from the exaltedness of his intellect. Like it says, and your name should not be called anymore Avram, and your name will be Avraham. What is the meaning of that name? Is that this Avram, this exalted level of intellect, that this exalted level comes down here below. That's the meaning that he was called Avraham. Avraham means Av lahamoin goyim nisaticha. I've made you an Av, a leader, a father, a patron to a multitude of nations, which means instead of before his intellect being exalted and removed and not shared with anyone, so now this great and powerful intellect of Avram was now shared to the multitudes. Av hamoin goyim nisaticha. So therefore, it's understood what type of quality of learning was in the yeshiva where Avram was the sage over there, where Avram was the elder over there. Line 5, similar to this concerning the Torah study in the yeshivas of Yitzchak Yaakov, so too in all the generations before Matan Torah, like it's brought down the Gemara that Amram, Moshe Rabbeinu's father, was the great one, the sage of the generation. Achar of Moshe, and following him was Moshe Rabbeinu, that he taught Torah also prior to the giving of the Torah. And surely they didn't just learn what would eventually become the written Torah, but they had to be teaching, and their yeshivas also involved the oral Torah. Similar to what's brought down in Tanya in the Geras HaKodesh. Concerning the Rashbi, when he was in the cave hiding away from the Romans, just that he had to be learning Nigla with all the explanations and so on. To go through the entire Zoyar and the Tikkunei Zoyar, that was something he could have finished in 2 or 3 months. Surely the Alter Rebbe says the Rashbi did not say it the same matter, he didn't repeat it twice. Surely when the Rashbi was in the cave, so the main study in the revealed part of the Torah was in the give and take and the pilpul of the Torah. So in a similar vein, just like the Rashbi did not just limit himself to something that could be studied in 2-3 months, he learned something that occupied him for over a decade, the pilpul and the nigla and the Torah Sheba'al Peh. So therefore, in a similar vein, when Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, the Shvatim, Yehuda, and Mitzrayim, they were studying Torah, they weren't just studying what would eventually become Torah Shebiksav. Vikiv in line 17, Shagam, Kait Matan Torah, Limlat Torah, since also before the giving of the Torah, there was Torah study, Gam Torah, Sheba'al Peh, Pepula Daraisa, also the oral Torah and the discussions and give and takes of the Torah. In Cain, Ma'u Achidish, the Matan Torah, what is the novelty, uniqueness of the giving of the Torah? Va'ad Kedei Kach, to such a degree. Sh'am Razal, the Chazal said, what it says in Tehillim, that from the heavens you let be heard justice. In other words, the teachings of the Torah. Eretz Yara Vishakata, the land feared and calmed down. So the Gemara says, Betchila Yara, initially it was fearful before the giving of the Torah. And eventually, when the Yidden actually accepted the Torah, shakata, it quieted down, it calmed down. What was the world fearful about? So it explains, it says, when it enumerates what happened, in the creation, every single time it's Vayever Boiker, Yom Echad, Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi. When it comes to Friday, it says Yom HaShishi, the sixth day. The Hey Hayidiyah indicates the known day. In other words, it was hinting at the sixth day of Sivan. And from this, the Chazal say, Malamed, this teaches us, Hashem made a condition with the creation. If the Yidden will fulfill the Torah, so you will continue existing. But if not, then the world has no reason to exist. So that's why it was trembling, that's why it was fearful, that's why it was yora. It was scared. What will happen if the Yidden don't accept the Torah? That's why it says the sixth day. That all of them, the entire existence, the entire world, was waiting for Yom HaShishi, is waiting for the sixth day. They're all hanging and standing and waiting, but like bated breath, until the sixth day, not Friday of creation, but from the creation, when that pasuk says, until the sixth day of Sivan, that's set aside for the giving of the Torah, the entire world was trembling, and finally, when the Yidden accepted the Torah, Vishakata, so then the world calmed down. The world was not anymore fearful. So the question is, seemingly, what's the great novelty in the giving of the Torah that only then the earth calmed down? Seemingly, what's the big deal? Yidden were already learning Torah and fulfilling Torah in the times of the Avis and so on and so forth, as the Rebbe asked up till Ois Gimel. Ois Gimel.
You've been breaking up a lot.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Ois Gimel, bottom of page Zayin, line 29. All of this that we just now spoke about will be understood by prefacing what was explained previously in the previous Mamor. In every matter and topic, there are two lines, top of page Ches. Beginning from the beginning of the chain order of descent, that already in the first highest most level, there's already two lines of Chesed and Gvuram. And following that in the entire chain order of descent, until it comes down even in the world, that there's both lines, there's even lower than this in the world, that even in Klippa and so on, there's also both lines. And we're going to bring what we had earlier as well, like the Baal Shem Tov explains what it says. And Al-Kim said there should be light. And Hashem Yisbarach said that Hashem Yisbarach himself is the attribute of Chesed. This little piece the Rebbe didn't say explicitly in the previous mimer. By the power of the midah of Elokim, that is the attribute of severity that constricts the light. So you have to have the Chesed go into Gvura. So you already see that at the beginning of creation, the first step in creation, where light was created, already there we have the coalescing and intermingling and the two lines of Chesed and Gvura. And then similar vein movement, Masha Kasa Beitz Chaim, it's also understood from where it says in Eitz Chaim, initially there was a supernal light that filled the entire existence, and there was no empty space. V'hainu sheyeshnon shnei inyanim. That means there's two things, two lines. Ha'od ein sof ha'malas ha'metzias, the infinite light of Hashem that fills existence. Ve'efsharius l'metzias ha'cholol, and the possibility that there should be an existence of that empty space. Though there was no actual tzimtzum, mikol makom still an all, hoya kvaran sinas makom lazeh, there was still the possibility for it. There was still the enabling for this, and that's why there was this idea of the two lines. And top of page test, in the expression of Kabbalah, it's the idea of, like we mentioned earlier, it comes and then it doesn't come. It fills and then it pulls back. It filled all space, then it emptied. These are the two movements of constriction. That's the pulling back. That's the chol makom pani. And the expansion, the Ein Sof, that filled all entire existence. So too it also comes down in Torah, which is Hashem's delight in Himself. So because it's coming from Hashem as well, there's also the two lines in Torah as well. And the Rebbe explains that the two lines in Torah is hinted in this very phrase. That in the word Shashuai, there's the letters Shin Ayin twice. Shashuai, so it's Shin Ayin. What's the significance? Each one indicates one line, and the two, Shashuai, is the two lines in Torah. And then further, as we said, from this comes down both lines also in the world. Also lower than the world, which means in the existence of Klippa. Both in the initial state of Klippa, the way Klippa is still positive, that it's just like a real peel or shell that protects whatever is inside of it. It's no negative connotations. Also following that, the way Klippa becomes its independent existence, so it's even worse. In other words, it's contrary and in opposition to Hashem. Even there, Klippa has two lines. Because in all aspects, from the beginning of creation till the lowest aspect, there's two lines. Therefore, there has to be both lines also in the service of Yidden. This is what it says, that the water for them is a wall. From their right and their left. These are the two lines of right and left that they had in their Avodas Hashem, Torah and Tefillah, Mezuzah and Tefillin and so on, Mitzvahs Aseh, Mitzvahs Loisa. All of these are necessary because since the whole Seder Ishtalshlus is made up in such a type of way of the two lines. And from this, we're going to bring it back to the idea of Matan Torah.